what do you do? How do you safeguard yourself? Well, alternative assets. And again, the phrase that I love to use because it's the most accurate and a little poetic is something like precious metals makes you your own financial sovereign. And we spoke about it last week. There's no debt behind precious metals. There's no government issuing precious metals. There's no financial body behind it. They are their own asset class. You instantly put yourself above any one economic system. You detach yourself from all that. And
Sure.
so when we see this, we have a $2 trillion deficit, right? We spend $7 trillion. The government brings in $5 trillion from taxes. We have this deficit, and you keep adding on to our debt. You keep selling out our future. Well, we don't have that. That has to be financed.
Sure.
How does it get financed? Well, what they'll say is, hey, we're going to have growth. And that's the biggest one. That's the best option to get out of debt, is to have enough growth, enough GDP to climb us back out of it. And a little selling out of the future to pay for the present, sure. But at some point, there's a balancing act. At some point, it's gone too far. And I think we've reached that. And I think we reached that several years ago. I think we reached that before the Inflation Reduction Act was passed. And of course, just people who align with that political ideology, they just don't seem to grab it. And a lot of the Republicans don't grab it as well. Apparently, the only guy who does is Thomas Massie, representative out of Kentucky, who, he's got some heat from Trump lately. But I'm a big Thomas Massie fan as well. He's the only one who didn't back the CARES Act, and I don't want to go into that just yet. I haven't done my deep dive into it. But when you start adding all this up, when you start seeing how much debt we're in and the fact that it needs to be financed, well, growth is ideal. Taxing is another way. Well, how much more could we possibly raise taxes?
Sure.
I don't think Trump's going to raise taxes.
No.
Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he lowers them significantly, because these are just outrageous. I mean, we went to war over taxes, and we're at, what's the highest tax bracket? 39%? Something like that. And I don't know what the corporate taxes are, but that's just a whole other animal. And then the final one is obviously money creation. That's how we get our way out of debt, is just printing more money. There's been plenty of that as well. So what we've been seeing is obviously the precious metal market climb. And for those who've been on the sidelines, I have some encouraging words for you. Look at these charts over the last, I don't know, when did we bottom out? I think it was below 1,700 back in 22. That was kind of this bull market's bottom until it took off. Look at it. Look at it go up. Just pull up any chart of the precious metal market, and what you're going to see is a very steady incline. We haven't seen any dramatic spike, because if you saw that, then the concern of a pullback, of an overdone and a too steep of a run up, a pullback would be a legitimate concern. Is this an overvalued commodity? And the fact that we've seen this climb so methodically, I think, is a very positive thing. So I do not believe whatsoever that we are at anywhere close to the end of this march. And again, there is some historic precedence for this. 2008, 2011 was the last big bull run for precious metals. Took 3 years to play out. Well, that was the world financial crisis. That was a big deal. I think what a lot of people are finally coming to terms with is the disaster that was the previous administration, the policies, fiscal and monetary, that set us up even worse than what happened in 2008. And it's a good thing that these things are starting to play out, but we were on a one-way road.
Yeah.
This pullback, this recession, especially in the stock market, this was predetermined. Yeah, there was 100%. No avoiding this. Yeah. And then same is true. The inverse is true for the precious metals. I don't think 3,000 is where we stop.
I know you've done some TSP rollovers, Jake. Mm-hmm. What do people say that have a TSP? Why do they want to get a TSP out of a TSP and into gold? Is it the limited options? Is it like
what
are the reasons that people do it?
That's a big one. Is, first of all, the reason we exist is because we're able to offer something that traditional investment firms cannot, which is, again, owning the actual physical metal. That is of the utmost importance. If you ever want me to dive in on that, or any one of our representatives here, give us a call. But we do something that no one else does. And so obviously TSP doesn't have access to the metals. They don't have holding facilities for the metals. And, they're doing things that is best for them, right? That's when options are limited, is because, TSP is funding itself somehow through the investments that their individuals are getting into. So control is a big one, and obviously safety. And what they have to offer doesn't give protection. There's nothing else on this planet that offers your portfolio the defensive positioning that precious metals do. So a big reason, sometimes it's conversations around the TSP itself. Sometimes it's just a distaste for what the government is doing in general. And, for good reason. I've aligned with my clients on that. We connect on that issue. But sometimes it's simply macroeconomic conditions. And again, precious metals has been the place to be over the last several years. And I do think it's going to be the number one performing asset in the next couple years. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but I mean, the tea leaves are laid out. And I don't see an upward trajectory for the stock market. I don't see an upward trajectory really for anything but precious metals and maybe some alternative assets. But
Yeah, and I think with the TSP, the one thing that, and listen, we're not financial advisors, so if you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. We just deal in the physical metal. But the one thing that I always found that people told me when I was talking to clients about this directly was that the TSP had 4 different funds that they could invest into. It was very limited in terms of what they are allowed to invest. You don't have a wide range of options. With our self-directed IRA, when you roll it over, you can do it in precious metals, you could do it in crypto, you could buy Tesla stock. Like, you have more control than a TSP or even a 401k. I mean, I would always say, even if you didn't do business with us and you have access to a 401k or a TSP or a 403b, wouldn't you say it's a better to go to a self-directed anyway, just because you have more control and more options?
certainly. And I mean, there's give and take in everything, and there are different contribution limits based on these different accounts. But once you get into a self-directed IRA, no one tells you what to do. And for an American, for me, I don't, not everyone aligns, but you want to be in control. You want to have both hands on the wheel. And investing is a big world, and it can be overwhelming for most people. And so getting something you can understand, that's also a benefit. And that's what we do here at Noble Gold. That's our first conversation is, this is what the move is. This is what this market's about. It's not complicated. People make it sound so complicated, but you don't know what you don't know, which is why people call us. They get their education. They feel their comfort. And I just saw our success story come in, and our I don't know, do we call it our company portfolio? Our company portfolio's track record is incredible. Our clients,
Well, yeah, because we've done over $2 billion in sales. And I just actually got from our custodian what our values are of our clients' IRAs. And we're nearly, $3 billion in assets. So, it's good. It makes us feel good that we're trending in the right way, because so many of our clients are at or near retirement, and they need it. They need the money. And so that they know that, hey, I can get some cash if I need to, or I can liquidate, I can get the gold and silver, and also that is the thing that when I set out to start Noble Gold, is that I wanted it to be service oriented, and that we didn't just sell you the gold, that like when you're ready to do the distribution, we can help you. We will call the custodian, we'll help you with the paperwork. We do all that. We don't make any money on any of those transactions. We just do that as part of our service, because I felt that service had gone to the wayside and it gone away. And so to see this from Marita here, that she made $45,000, it took her to convince her husband 2 years to talk him into it. Listen, we're not perfect, right? Obviously you knew something, and no, I'm just kidding. And so, it's great to see these kind of stories. I love hearing this. And we appreciate you as a client, obviously. So it's one of these things where there's so many options today. There's so many different things to invest into. we just focus on getting you an item a precious metal that you own by yourself. It's not fractional. There's a lot of growth in fractional items happening. It's not an ETF. I mean, we're seeing what's happening with the London Exchange, where the whole thing is being exposed as a scam, that people are trying to get their gold and silver from the London Exchange. It's not there. They're delayed. I mean, there's a lot of these things happen. And that's obviously part of the reason the price is going up, is people are seeing like, wait a minute, I would just buy like GLD, or I'd buy a contract. And now they're saying that the metals aren't there. Where are the metals?
So,
we're talking about an audit of Fort Knox. We don't know if we have all the metals there. Like, where's all the gold? Like, where is all this stuff? And so I think investors are opening up and going, wait a minute, if there's all this gold not there, like, is the price the way it is because it was there and now we're realizing it's not there? I mean, these are things that people are really realizing right now, that
well, look,
a lot of the gold that was supposed to be there is not there.
I think the reason we're so popular and the reason our clients love us is because we are a bookend service from start to finish. And I spoke with a guy the other day, and I brought this cheeky little example up to him. I was just like, well, it had just been the time change. I was like, did you set your clocks? Did you do it on your car? Did you get all that? And he's like, no, they're kind of a pain in the ass. I don't want to take the time to learn it. Da da da. It's like, well, if you can't do your clocks, are you really going to want to deal with issues in your IRA account? And of course, he got the point immediately, right? And that's why we're here. We are with our clients from start to finish. If there's a problem on A, B, or C, our clients have one person to call.
Right.
They call us, and we get that ball rolling. So
absolutely, yeah. It's we're in unprecedented times, obviously, unique times. So much to discuss, but I think to round up here, this recession was already happening. It happened before President Trump got in office. He's trying to fix it. It's not going to happen fast. We've been blaming the tariffs, obviously. But there's opportunities, and I think people need to decide right now if they're going to ride the wave. Okay, they got to know they're going to ride the wave. It's going to be bumpy. Equities are going to be bumpy. It's going to be rough. There's going to be sell-offs. Consumer sentiment is low. GDP, if the Atlanta Fed is right, 1.7% GDP, which is the lowest reported, if it's true, if it happens, it'll be the lowest reported in 20 years. We haven't seen 1.7% GDP. So these are all things that are out there. There's options. You can change. You can do something different. We're here to make that easy and smooth. Jake's here. Before we got on today, I think I was telling you I saw another review on Google that came in, or Trustpilot for you. So obviously you're doing great with your clients. Why don't you round up here, Jake? Just kind of round up the day here and kind of summarize what's going on.
Sure. Well, that is a point of pride for us, and if you go look at our reviews, that makes us stand out against everyone. So
correct.
One thing that keeps rattling around in my mind is energy. Right? We need energy for growth, especially Trump's talked about making the sovereign wealth fund predicated in Bitcoin, and those are energy intensive assets as well. But any developed nation, any succeeding, prospering nation has energy at the top of its list.
Correct.
Right? You just have to have it. And when Biden got us into back into the Paris Accord, and he cut the pipelines, and all of these things affect the bottom line and don't allow for growth. I mean, and that's what we're coming full circle around. That's what we're trying to hit from a dozen different angles, is what we're experiencing today, to sum it all up, is a trajectory that we were put on years ago.
Correct.
This was a one-way path, and we're here now.
Correct.
And it's just getting started. And that is why you get alternative assets within the portfolio. When one is going up, the other's going down, and when one's going down, you got to get something that's going up. And that's, of course, why precious metals have been so popular. The proof's in the numbers. If you think the precious metal market is tapped out, well, then now is not the time to get in. Do you think the market's tapped out? I don't. I think we're just getting started.
I think we're just getting